What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boys over here at Three Man Weave. I'm your co-host CJ, here with my lovely co-host ZD in person, bro.
Yep.
It's been a long time. We have not shot an in-person podcast in a long time. I think the last time we did was whenever the news broke about Luka, right?
Yeah.
So was that February? Time?
Early February, yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a while, but
all good.
Appreciate you for pulling up on my boy,
bro,
and I told ZD this earlier. Obviously we shoot our pod multiple times a week usually, and just doing it in person is just like different, bro. Pause. But just like seeing you in person, just being able to like have that interaction, like face to face, like it's different, bro. And even for the audience as well, I think when we clip stuff up, it'll look a lot better, it'll look a lot cleaner, and I think people enjoy that. So
see our chemistry. Pause.
Exactly.
So hating on us,
but yeah, we have a great docket to talk about today. We're going to be talking about the Eastern Conference over/under for wins, and
totals.
And then we're also going to be talking about the New Orleans Pelicans offseason files. So
come on, man.
For everyone that's been keeping up with us this offseason, we talk about team and dive deep into the players that they built around, the cap situation, everything. So
everything.
Yeah, how are you doing today?
I appreciate the intro, CJ. I am doing great, bro. I think it's been a long time coming. Like Absolutely. You said, this has been it's a couple months in the making, but we've changed a couple things for the pod. Got the nice outline today. We talk about the Eastern Conference win total. So I'm excited, man. I had a pretty good day today. I was just chilling. Was working on some stuff for 3Man and ATD. Working on the content grind, but I'm excited to be here, man. This is, I wanted to tell you this has been the best part of my day so far, for sure.
I appreciate that,
bro.
bro. I appreciate
how you feeling? You feeling good?
Yeah, I'm feeling good, bro. We hit the gym, and obviously we started planning everything, and you had got me some food and shit. So I appreciate you, bro.
Oh, of course, bro.
Like you said, that was probably this is probably the best part of my day too.
100%.
Work and all that other stuff that we got to deal with on a day-to-day
it's not
basis,
fun.
but being able to chop it up with you about hoops, especially in person, bro, seeing you and stuff, it always just hits different because it kind of brings me back to like when we first started doing this,
bro.
It's super dope. 2600, man. So yeah, no, I'm doing great though. Ready to get into the pod and just kind of
let's do it
with you, bro.
Yeah, let's get into it, man.
It's good, bro.
Yeah, I got you. So starting it off, guys, we're gonna go through the Eastern Conference, like the win totals, like CJ explained a couple seconds ago. We'll start it off from the bottom up. So these teams at the beginning are going to be the teams with the lowest win totals. So if this is your squad, I'm sorry. But started off, got none other than the Brooklyn Nets. They're sitting at 21.5 wins. And to be honest with you guys, I'm going to start this one off hot, but I'm going over. Mm-hmm. The Brooklyn Nets are currently in a rebuild situation. We know what they did with Cam Johnson. They still have Cam Thomas on their team. They also added MPJ. I just think this number is too low. Mm-hmm. We just saw their last season's win total, which was 26 wins, I think. And so it was 5 wins over. You could argue that the roster is similar to last season. And so for that reason, I think they go over, but only by 2 games. I think Brooklyn Nets are definitely in the tankathon. They want to get AJ DeBansta. They want to get a crack at some of the best guys in the draft. And ultimately, that's not going to add up to a lot of wins. Don't expect Brooklyn to win 40 games here. I'm not saying that, but 22 games is very low.
Very low.
I know you probably have a similar thought process on that, but I think Brooklyn's looking at their schedule too, because I took a peek at pretty much everybody's schedule, just the first half, the middle half, and the end half. And Brooklyn can definitely win some games, especially against some of the worser teams in the NBA. And I think those games will be semi-competitive. So I'm going with the over.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think, especially, looking, we brought up the record from last year. They were able to win 26 games last year with the roster that they had and didn't really have a guy. Cam Thomas was injured. It was kind of in and out of the lineup and kind of they didn't really have an identity. I feel like MPJ, not saying that he's going to lead him to the mountaintop or anything.
You almost 20 though.
I think him alone, I just think the type of player he is, and I'm expecting a pretty good season from him, honestly, bro. Like honestly, Cam, I think he's going to have a really good season.
I agree.
Him and Cam Thomas.
I agree.
I don't know if they're going to be passing the ball as much.
Nah,
but they're going to get buckets.
They're going to score,
and I think they can definitely catch a lot of teams off guard.
By
and
surprise,
people not really expect them to probably, make 33s in a game or something or whatever it may be. Just kind of thinking of you know, how I can see them winning, you know, and all the rookies they just drafted, you know,
Igor,
Danny
Wolf. Come on now.
bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think I think that win total is
5
very
first-round
low.
picks.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be over, not by much.
Not by much, but
maybe
over.
like 23, 24, like
24
around that.
wins.
Like, I think they're still going to be one of the worst teams in the league. But I think with that line, you know, I'm comfortable with saying that they would go over as well.
Minus 110 too on FanDuel if you want to take that over 21.5. Me and CJ for Brooklyn Nets. But going into the next team, man, this is another team that's been in purgatory the last few seasons. Recently drafted Trey Johnson in the first round of the recent NBA draft, but it's none other than the Washington Wizards, man, sitting at the same win total as the Brooklyn Nets, 21.5. Yeah, when I first see these two numbers, to me are low. I think, again, I'm going with another over here. I feel like the Wizards are actually in a better spot than the Nets in terms of continuity and their core. You know, talking about Alex Sarr, right? Koulibaly. We've seen, obviously, them change and get some more veterans. We've seen Chris Middleton be added to the fold. But I think adding Trey Johnson is really, really intriguing to me. And similar to the Nets, I mean, their schedule, like, playing some of the worser Eastern Conference teams like the Hornets or the Bulls, or man, the Wizards could beat them for sure. You know, like you just said, if they get hot from three, if they hit 25 threes in a game, I mean, anything can happen. And I think the Wizards are going to be a better defensive team than the Nets as well. So I have to give credit to, you know, where credit is due. But yeah, similar situation. I think they'll win probably 24, 25 games. It's not going to be a insanely crazy season, and I think that's good. You know, the Wizards, like I said, they're in rebuilding mode. They need those draft picks, so it would be in their best interest not to win. But I still think this number is a bit low.
Yeah,
so
I'm the same way as well. Obviously, you know, I just talked to ZD about it. You know, it's gonna be we really gotta think about these type of, you know, over unders, because, you know, not every team is gonna be able to get over, or not every
night. So, exactly.
But I agree with you as well. I think that line is super low. You know,
super low.
They didn't have that great of a season last year, but I think, like you said, Trey Johnson, you know, I'm expecting a huge year from him. And I believe with the, like you said, the veteran additions of like CJ McCollum, Kelly Olynyk, like those type of players, like I think it's just a better constructed team than the Nets. So if I think the Nets are going to go over, it's pretty much like I got to think the Wizards are too. And I think, like you said, better defensively, Alex Sarr, Koulibaly, Bub, like they have a good squad. Like I think we've talked pretty highly of the Wizards for the most part. You know, they didn't have really much highlights throughout the year, but you know, I've seen the potential, and you know, I'm not saying that they're going to make the play in or anything, but I think they're going to get over 21.5 wins.
For sure.
Because I think that line is way too low as well.
I agree. And I think, again, like when they're set in the right area, like they're going to be within the 20 win range, but again, 22 wins on the season. Like I think they could do that for sure, especially with the talent that they have now. And it's going to be interesting to see if they can do that. So shout out to the Wizards fans. Hopefully you guys go over that number of 21.5. But going into our next squad, again, in a similar situation at the same win total as the other two teams beforehand, Charlotte Hornets, man, sitting at 21.5. Again, I'm taking the over. I feel like Charlotte is in a similar spot to the Wizards. Just they've been able to build some continuity through the pieces that they've drafted. Charlotte added Liam McNeely. They also added Con Knuppel, super interesting product as well from Duke. I just think LaMelo being semi-healthy, Brandon Miller being healthy, anything can happen. I honestly think the Hornets could go way over this number if those two guys are healthy. Like you're looking at like 30-ish wins, which is 10 games over 22. So definitely firmly saying over with this one. I also think their coach is very wise. And again, I think if they can improve their defense, if their offense is not the question, I think they're going to be able to run with their different lineups. LaMelo Ball is going to be able to get everybody involved. It's going to lead to winning some games, but we'll just have to see how many. But this is another over for me.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm right there with you, bro. I feel like that number is way too low. Obviously, didn't have that great of a season last year, but you know that's a majority. You know, huge reason of that is health, and I think we're due for a LaMelo Ball healthy season. I feel even if it's not like
literally, bro, we gotta get it.
Games. I think he
gotta get it.
I think this might be the year where he hits the minimum games requirement. You know what I mean? I feel like that's a season. I think we haven't really had it since he made an All-Star, I think, his second year.
Sophomore year.
Yeah, so it's been a while. And, like you said, they have a good roster on paper.
They
I think
do.
it's just the health.
Young roster too.
It's the health and really the defense, but
Yeah,
offensively,
the defense,
like you said, is not the question. I think when you have a player like LaMelo, Brandon Miller, it's really gonna boil down to their health. I really think, obviously projecting this, it's August 18th, so season's nowhere near starting, but I think
It's close.
Yeah, it's getting there. We're definitely counting down
It's
the days.
exciting.
Yeah, definitely. But
Had to throw that in there.
I think it's going to be interesting to see the year they have because I think they can potentially, get that last playing spot.
I agree.
That's kind of where
what we had in our prediction.
Yeah,
predictions.
Exactly. I think that's kind of where I see, their ceiling, I guess.
Yeah.
For this upcoming season.
Which would be a success.
It would be a success, bro. I think it's it's gonna be exciting to see because whenever LaMelo and B Miller are healthy, I think we've seen flashes and seen the potential that they both have, and that's
100%.
one of the best scoring young duos that we
Oh,
have.
man.
So it's I think that's a easy over for me.
I agree.
Probably around the same type of wins though, or not the same type of wins. I think they have a better opportunity to get more wins.
I agree.
Just because
Their team is a little
bit better, and I think with the players that they have, it just kind of. I think someone is going to have a great season.
I agree, bro. And they seem like they're already meshing well. We haven't seen them in action yet, but all of these younger guys are going to be athletic, spry. They're going to be able to play on a nightly basis, so that's going to be exciting. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Charlotte can do. I'm really excited about the Hornets, so it's an easy over for me.
Mm-hmm.
But this next squad, we saw them make the play-in. They got embarrassed. And unfortunately, Chicago Bulls, they've still been waiting to win that NBA championship since Jordan left. But their number is at 32.5, which means they got to get 33 wins to go over. I am going to go under. This is my first under here. I feel like they're just struggling to really get a grip on what type of team they want to be. I would argue, again, the Hornets have a clear direction, more clear than the Bulls do, actually. Some of this stuff is with Giddey. We've seen the free agency talks. We don't really know what he's going to do. I think the Bulls are trying to determine his value, but I don't know if Kobe White and Josh Giddey are better than Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball when healthy. I would argue that duo previously is better than the one that we have now. And just seeing their win total so high, I think it was from last year where they got really, really hot at the end of the season, which credit to Chicago, can't take anything away from them. However, I think it was due to some offensive outliers, you could say, that probably aren't going to be happening throughout the course of an NBA season. And so to me, I think they go just under. I think you get 31 wins. So it's not to say that this number is too far off, but I actually think this number at 33 for the over is actually exactly where the Bulls are going to be, at 30 number range. So I'm actually going under here at 31 wins, 30 wins.
I was about to say this one, I definitely got to think about this one.
Yeah,
because we saw the type of season they had towards the back half of the year, and just kind of seeing what Josh Giddey and Kobe White are doing. I feel like they always do really good towards the end of the year. That's kind of what I've noticed.
Yeah,
what they've done.
That's true.
So
take some time to wake up.
I think I might go over again, bro.
Okay.
Just barely, though. I feel like they might get 34, 35, like around that. But I feel like that's a great
number's
number.
Perfect.
Yeah. This is the first one where I really have to think about it. The first three, I was kind of like, oh, it's pretty easy. Like, I don't think these teams, they're not going to be winning a lot of games, but the number set for them is just so low that I was like, for sure over. This is the first one where I'm like really having to think, but I think they barely get over. I would say probably like 33, 34 type of range.
Yeah, barely.
But it just obviously, we don't know. We don't know yet. I'm assuming Josh Giddey's going to get his contract extension, but at this very moment, he doesn't have it. But whenever he does get there, I think like I was saying earlier, they might start off slow, kind of get into groove a little late, but I think they could towards the back end of the year. They
always do,
They
man.
always do, bro. It's kind of crazy.
Saying,
but
they always make a push.
But I'm going to go over on here. I've gone over on the first four teams so far. So
good.
I'm really going to have to think about these next ones, but
some of the ones coming up are definitely trending under as well. So you guys will see in a second. But yeah, no, if you think the Bulls are going over, I respect that. I think they've proven to us that they are fringe playing team every single season.
Year, yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much guaranteed to happen. I think they're going to be in the mix again. So yeah, under for me, over from CJ at 32.5 for Chicago. This next squad is really interesting. I'm really excited to see what their roster turns into. Adding Brandon Ingram, that kind of gives it away. It's the Toronto Raptors sitting at 35.5, which means they have to get 36 wins total to go over. You know what, guys? I'm with Toronto on this one. I'm going over. I think their floor is extremely high. They have the highest floor out of any of the teams we've spoken about previously. I think adding Brandon Ingram gives them that offensive, you could kind of say mid-range maestro, I guess, that you could say that they were lacking. I think Emmanuel Quickly, Scotty Barnes do a lot of work either in the interior, and Emmanuel Quickly be shooting them threes. I think RJ Barrett's also interesting as well. For me, it's just a question of health. I think the Eastern Conference is weaker, so I think they'll be able to get some opportunities to have some good win streaks, 4 games here, 5 games here, and that's going to add up to a pretty big win total. But I think Toronto, sitting at 36 wins, I think this number is right on as well. Similar to the Bulls. You're looking at them to go over 36, 37 wins, and I think that does happen. I think Toronto is poised to kind of make a comeback year this year with having all their guys healthy, and I just think it adds up to having a decent season. I think, in my opinion, for them to win, really, it's make the playoffs. That would be a successful year, but definitely going over this number is possible, and I think they will.
Yeah. Another one where I have to really kind of think about it a little bit. I'm in the same boat as you, though, kind of leaning towards over. Just sucks because I'm going overall for all these teams, so I'm going to have to
think about it.
Think about some of these deep other ones, but
they start to get high, though.
Yeah, no, yeah. These the back end, they're pretty high. So, but I don't know, man. I'm kind of leaning towards over again. I mean, I agree. It kind of sucks to say it, but
you can see it.
I can see it just because health, like you said, is the main reason. But BI kind of having a full off season to kind of train with the team, get healthy, get right.
And he's good when he's on, bro.
That's what I'm saying. And Scotty Barnes, so
man,
it's going to be an interesting roster. They've always been a pretty bright team.
Yeah, solid.
It's
bright.
Always been potential.
Grady Dick,
Grady Dick, RJ Barrett, Manuel Quickly, Manuel Quickly. They got a squad, bro. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go over. I don't want to just say over for all these teams, but I think I'm kind of leaning towards over again, bro.
I agree.
For everything you said,
37.
and if Scotty Barnes gets that games requirement, I think he's gonna be an all-star.
I agree. Yeah, that's some people might disagree, but I'm with you all the way. Just his two-way ability is completely changed the type of player that he is. And we've seen, me and CJ have watched hoops for a while. We've seen him at Montverde going through the ranks, and we've just seen Scotty Barnes really blossom. So I'm excited for Toronto's season, man. I know, shout out Mikey. I know you be watching the pod, and I know you're a Raptors fan, so I'm pointing at you, dog. That one's for you. Me and CJ going over on the Raptors total.
Raptors, yes, sir.
Hey, this next team that's coming up, though, man, recently in the finals, which was crazy, but it's none other than the Indiana Pacers sitting in at 39.5 wins, so they got to get 40 to go over. I'm going under. We've seen Tyrese Halliburton go down. I think it just took the air out of this team for me. Andrew Nembhard's an interesting piece. We know Pascal Siakam's going to do his thing, but how many wins is that really going to equate to? And would it be bad to have a nice draft pick with Tyrese coming back? I don't know. And so I think the Pacers can go over this number. I just think the wind has been taken out of their sails with the Tyrese injury, and it seems that they're kind of already going into next season thinking they're going to do bad, which never goes well.
Yeah,
I think it would be different if the energy surrounding that aura and that team was more of in a rally state, but I think clearly Tyrese not being there, they kind of know that that's going to leave an extremely big void in their offense, and so I think that's going to hurt them. I think Andrew Nembhard's very capable. I think, Neesmith, we have Top, and we got Siakam. They have an interesting roster.
Very.
They lost Miles Turner, so I think they're going to lose out on some
big.
of that. Some of that rebounding, and I just think that's going to hurt them a little bit. And I think 40 wins might be a little bit too much. I think this number should be near where the Raptors are at. Actually,
Same. Yeah, I agree. I'm going under as well.
Yeah,
I think
first under. There you go.
First under for me.
I see it. Unfortunately.
Yeah. I just think, like, you brought up great points. The Tyrese injury, the fact that it happened in the finals and he's going to be missed this whole year. Like, I've talked to you about it. I think I brought it up in the podcast a couple times. Just in that moment, I wasn't thinking about that because obviously I still had a horse in that race.
Of course,
so I'm thinking about just winning the series, but kind of reflecting on it afterwards, I was like, man, we're really not going to have Tyrese for a whole year, bro. So I think that's going to be a huge factor as to why they're going to go under. I don't think they're going to be like a terrible team.
Yeah.
I think it might be like a game or two.
Yeah,
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like they're probably 36, 37 area. But I think just, we talk very highly of Andrew Nemhard. We think he's probably going to have an MIP type season. Just his situation he's in. And Pascal's going to be great.
Of
course.
Like
you said, how many wins is that really going to equate to? So that's kind of where I'm leaning to. And them not losing Miles Turner as well. I think that's going to be a huge thing for them. And, we went through their roster and their bigs really aren't that
void.
Great.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be a huge hole that they're going to have to fill. Point. And I think that's kind of why I'm leaning towards under. But I think, their team is solid. Obviously, they just made it to the finals. They have good young pieces. Like
great defensive team.
Exactly. And I think, they're still going to play at the same pace, no pun intended. And
they're gonna play quick. Rick Carlisle.
We know how they're gonna play, and I think just kind of the playoff run they had, kind of not being like a defensive stopper of a team, but just kind of playing really good team defense. I think that's going to
connected defense.
Have them win a decent amount of games, but I don't think it's gonna be 40.
Yeah, and it's not going to be like last year.
I don't think so, no.
100%. So that's 2 unders. Pacers fans, we love you. We're sorry about what happened.
Yeah.
This next team is also very interesting. A lot of question marks surrounding this squad. We got the 76ers, man, coming in at 43.5 for the over-under. They got to get 44 to go over. I think for me, the number one thing is the question mark is really just health, right? Yeah. Embiid. Can Paul George be in the lineup at all? Mm-hmm. They drafted VJ Edgecombe as a safety, really just like I wouldn't say as a backup plan, but he's definitely going to be a part of their future moving forward. And I think it has something to do with Paul George for sure. This number is really high. They got to get 44 wins. I think they go under again, but only just under. I think you're going to see Embiid play, but not 65 games. I think if Embiid gives you 50 games, that's going to be good. But it just depends on how Tyrese Maxey, Edgecombe, and Paul George really do in that supporting cast. I worry that the 76ers are so top-heavy that they're not going to be able to withstand any sort of injury. And that's a major concern for me. So I have to go under on this one. I think 44 is really high, especially for a team that hasn't proven that they can do it yet. Right. I mean, we saw their performance on Christmas, which we did a really cool episode for that, but it still hasn't equated to any wins yet. And so I understand the hype and I see, Embiid healthy, summer of Embiid. We've talked about it on this pod, but really how many wins are they going to get?
Right.
If people aren't on the court, if they're playing Maxey 40 minutes a night, like they've been doing the last 2 seasons. I just think it's all on Embiid's shoulders. I think if he's out there for more than 50 games, he's going to shut me up. The Sixers are going to soar over this number, 48 wins, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think I'm going to have to go under on this.
Yeah.
I think it's just really question mark for me is the health. Like you said, Joel Embiid, how many games is he going to play? I doubt he's going to play 65. He's not going to meet the games requirement, but, they do have a interesting roster of veterans and young guys, so, that could...
Yeah.
Like I said, I think they could probably win like 40.
Yeah, McCain.
Like kind of middle of the pack type of team. Maybe
they're going to make the playoffs.
I think they're going to make a playoffs. Yeah. Honestly.
7, 8.
Yeah. Like around
6,
that.
Maybe.
But, I don't, 44 is a high amount of wins for this team. Like you said, they haven't really proven us
that we
can the past couple seasons. So it's, I think it's a high mark for them to hit. Like you said, if Embiid ends up playing 50 games, 60 games, whatever it is, then they'll probably soar over that. But that's my main question mark for me. I don't doubt the young talent. I think they're gonna be great. But even with the talent that they had last year with McCain and Grimes and stuff, like
all those guys,
everyone was kind of getting injured. No one was super healthy. Tyrese Maxey was kind of getting nagging injuries because he was playing so much.
So bro.
I think for me, 76ers, the main question for me is just health. And since that is my main
concern. Yeah.
I have to go under, bro.
Under,
I'm not gonna lie.
I just default to under. Yeah, if your team has injury question marks, it's very difficult for me to trust that you're going to be able to win without guys in the lineup. Especially your main guys, right? It'd be one thing if your bench players were the ones who are injury prone, but no, it's the majority of their cap. Yeah, like their star guys. So have to go under, but only just. I think they win 40 games.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. Like
For
maybe
sure.
40. Yeah.
Yeah. This next squad though definitely was a potential dynasty that we had in our eyes only 2 seasons ago. My arch nemesis, because I'm LA Lakers forever, baby, but it's none other than the Boston Celtics, who definitely a proud organization. Not going to hate on you guys too much. Their win total sitting at 43.5, though. The over is 44. I'm going to go over here. The connect, bro. Joe Mazzulla, I just have so much faith in their roster. I think the Tatum injury for them is actually something they rally behind. I think Jaylen Brown is looking for an opportunity to step up. We saw KP leave. We've seen the addition of Anthony Simons. They're starting to get younger. Peyton Pritchard's most likely going to start. I saw a report that said Anthony Simons may come off the bench, which is a completely different thing. We haven't seen Peyton Pritchard in a starting lineup yet, getting 30, 35 minutes a night. That just leans, it just speaks to their continuity, but it leads me towards the over. I think these guys, again, this team is a proven powerhouse. We've seen what they've been able to do and rally behind their main guys. Unfortunately, JT went down in the playoff series against the Knicks, which was unfortunate. So they're going to be missing him all of next season. So I can't see why this number is lower than normal. It would be normally in the 50s. But I think 44 games for this roster who's semi-healthy and just missing one of their all-stars, still think they're going to make way through the East.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if they go a couple games over, actually, 46, 47, and finish, 4 seed, 5 seed in the East. A firm playoff spot. They're not going to the finals this year, but they're not missing the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going over as well. I think Jaylen Brown.
Oh,
like you said, the injury of Tatum for the Celtics
is different.
Different from the injury for Tyrese with the Pacers. That's kind of
exactly
why I'm leaning more towards over, and obviously missing the whole season for both players, both star players, all NBA type players,
Hall of Fame potential.
Exactly. So, but I think, like you said, Jaylen Brown, Anthony Simons.
My gosh, Anthony Simons.
I think that them getting Anthony Simons was a huge pickup for them.
Yeah, that changes everything. For me.
I would probably second guess it if they didn't get him.
Yeah,
but I think he's
same.
gonna have a great season.
Because you wouldn't have a bench.
He wouldn't have a bench at all. But I think Jaylen Brown is gonna have a great year. I kind of see him all-star type player potential all NBA.
I agree
to that point, and I think just the way that they play as well. Nothing's really gonna change. Obviously, they're missing their star player, but the way that they play, I'm not saying you don't need a star player, but just their offense is so fluid. It's kind of just if you're open, we're gonna pass it to you, and just like you said, bomb threes all day long. So I think that line is super low. Obviously, if Tatum was there,
it is really low.
I see them getting around the same wins, like you said, bro, like 46, 47, definitely making the playoffs.
4 or 5 games over,
not making the finals, but just got to put respect on Mazzulla and what he's been able to
Celtics,
do within the past.
Yep, and I hate the C's, bro, but I got to respect greatness, and their team is great. And like CJ just alluded to, man, they don't need 2-3 all-stars on their team. Mazzulla's ran a perfect scheme, and the scheme fits Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum very well, and they're just going to keep playing like how they've been playing. So that's the Celtics, both overs from us. This next squad, man, up-and-coming team. They made the playoffs. They got a playoff win, actually. They hadn't done it for a long time last season, but this team is the Detroit Pistons. They're sitting at 45.5 wins for the over-under, which means they got to get 46. I am also trending towards the over. I think Detroit is one of the best teams in the East. I mean, me and CJ had them at, top 5, top 4 seed in our Eastern Conference predictions for how that would wind up. And I just think, again, Bickerstaff is coming and done an amazing job. I think Cade is really coming into his own. We got Jalen Duren. We got a Thompson twin. Tobias Harris has even provided some extra punch. I just think this team, regarding with except Malik Beasley, right?
Right.
everybody else just had that continuity. They've played together. They know what's expected of them. And I think they're in a similar situation to the Celtics. They got a coach who knows what they're doing. They're bringing back the majority of their guys. They're also adding Jaden Ivey, who's going to help out a lot. And I just think the Pistons are in a great spot, man. I mean, they've completely turned it around from being one of the worst teams in the league to honestly being a top 10, top 12 team in the NBA. And that speaks volumes about their franchise and what was brewing under the surface, even though when they were in the dark a couple seasons ago. And I got to give them credit, man. I think they can win 50 games. If especially with this season, with the Celtics being hindered and the Pacers, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Detroit at 45.5 seems kind of like a steal.
Yeah, I agree. Over.
Yeah.
Hit that over. I think Cade, he put the whole league on notice last year. I think this that was his coming out party. I think this is gonna be like his solidified, like he's one of those guys. It wasn't just last season.
He's gonna be here for the next 5 to 8 years.
Exactly, and I think that's kind of why I'm leaning towards the over. Just with the type of team that they have as well. Obviously Malik Beasley's not on the team anymore, but they had a great offseason. They have. That coming off this last season, I think it was a huge motivating thing for them, and just kind of seeing what like winning and making the playoffs is. I think they're gonna come into the season super hot, and they might be competing for like top 3 seed in the East. I agree. That's kind of where I'm leaning towards for them. So yeah, definitely hitting the over.
That's crazy.
And just the kind of the potential of the roster with Jaden Ivey coming back. We haven't seen him. What that looks like with the roster that they constructed, and kind of Cade coming into his own. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they go about doing that, because Jaden Ivey's also a guard, so it's kind of who's gonna take the
you're right, that logjam. Yeah.
But I think just the type of team that they have, with the East being so weak this year, I think this is going to be a potential year for them to win 50 games.
Yeah,
it's crazy to say.
I agree, man. And I don't know if Detroit has done that since, the Billups.
Oh, yeah.
Wallace, kind of Rasheed, right? Mm-hmm. Just all those legendary teams, man. It's just so interesting and amazing, man. So shout out Detroit. Mm-hmm. We're pulling for you. We've always spoken highly about you guys on 3 Man. So shout out Detroit Pistons fans. But going into this next team, man, this team added Porzingis this offseason. They've added Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I think, as well. Mm-hmm. Super interesting squad here with Jalen Johnson coming back, Trae Young in the fold, but it's none other than the Atlanta Hawks, man. They're coming in at 46.5 wins for the over-under, 47 to get over. To me, when I saw this, I was a little bit shocked that Detroit wasn't flipped here.
Me too.
Probably, Atlanta should be at 45.5. I'm going to take the under, but only barely.
Me too.
I think it's going to be 44, 45. This one is a no bet for me. So don't touch it. Yeah, this is like a perfect number right here.
Yeah, I agree.
I just think Atlanta's in a really good position, though. I will say, we haven't seen Trae do anything since the Eastern Conference Finals one with John Collins, where they thought they didn't have to change their team. Obviously, that was incorrect. Bro, Dyson Daniels completely shifted their timeline. I really do. Like that MIP kind of stealing it from Cade at the end of the year. Obviously, Dyson deserved it. Right?
100%.
But, dude, it's just crazy because now you got Trae Young, you have Jalen Johnson, you add Kristaps Porzingis, you add Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's a great defender and pretty good on offense as well. And I think it just opens up the floor for Trae, who is the best facilitator, especially without Halliburton. My goodness. He's going to be the best facilitator next season. I think he should lead the league in assists. So, yeah, I think the Hawks can get over this number. My only concern is their injuries. I think if one guy goes down, they have the pieces to cover it up, patch it, but I think if one of their main guys goes down, even Kristaps Porzingis, I think it's going to hurt their offense at that specific position, potentially impact their win total. So I'm going to go just under, but man, this number is very close and it's spot on. So definitely this is one where if you would have to bet, don't touch this one.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards under as well. I think they have a great roster. You just talked about all the additions that they had and kind of coming off this season last year, not being fully healthy, but just kind of seeing what Trae was able to do with the team that they had. And I think it's one of those, they're going to barely hit the under. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
I think that high, like you said, I would have, if Detroit and Atlanta were flipped, I probably would have went over for Atlanta because I feel like they're around that like 46,
45, yeah.
Like that
I
would have
agree.
been a great number for them.
It's a perfect number.
But kind of leaning towards what you said. They're one injury away. I mean, we kind of saw that what the offense turned into when Jalen Johnson went down.
Exactly.
And just kind of seeing.
We've already seen that.
Yeah. So, and like you said, Kristaps has kind of been not
wishy-washy.
not the most healthy.
Super healthy.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, they added him to hopefully have him for a whole season,
to start.
And I think with that I leaning towards the under, man. I just gotta go with my gut feeling. I'm gonna stop overthinking stuff too much, but I'm leaning towards the under. I think they're gonna have a great year. They won 40 games last year, so they're 40, 42, kind of leading towards like the 500 under 500 mark. I feel like that's kind of where the Hawks have always been. This is a great roster, but I'm leaning towards the under. I think it's a little high for them.
I agree. And I wouldn't be shocked if they surprised me and you.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
They could get to 50 wins this season, and I would be like, yeah, that makes sense. If people were healthy, they have a pretty good schedule too, man. Atlanta can get some wins out of the gate. We'll see. We'll just have to see, man. I'm leaning towards the under as of right now. So that's the firm reaction. But this next squad, man, they've been able to turn it around to kind of CJ's, second love. But it's none other than the Orlando Magic, man, out of Florida. I think their total's at 51.5, so they got to get 52 to go over. This number is super high. It's really suspicious when I saw this on FanDuel. But I'm actually trending towards the over. I think they know something we don't with the addition of Desmond Bane. We've seen what Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero can do. Their health has never really been a major factor. I think guys will be able to reach the 65 games limit. I just think that the Desmond Bane edition is what people are counting on, and I think his two-way presence is going to bring a lot of extra value to Orlando. So, bro, Paolo in his prime, I would say not even at his prime yet. Same with Franz. Those two guys are potential all-stars in their own right. I think adding another supplemental piece just helps them out a lot. And then they're also so defensively focused. It's one thing to be very good on offense or have an okay offense. And the Magic did not really have that last season. If you guys remember, they played at the slowest pace. They did not score a lot of points. But they've always been defensive focused. And I think now they're finally coming into that next journey, right, of being in the Orlando Magic, being a offensive team, a team that can score 120, 130 points on a good night. And I think that's what's going to take them over this number. I think they can get 52, 53 wins. If guys can stay healthy, I know it's a big number, but I think the defense leads the charge here, and expect them to finish top 5 in the NBA in defense. And so when you have a top 5 defense combined with the addition of Desmond Bane, who's going to shoot 40% from deep, 19, 20 points a night, that's dangerous, man, especially if that's in your starting lineup with a solid bench. So I'm leaning towards the over.
No, I think
Orlando,
that 51.5 is a huge number. Very, they won 41 last year, so that's 11 games over. I'm leaning towards the over as well, man. I think, I'm super high on the Magic. For everyone that doesn't know, I would say this is my second team. I'm going to claim it now at this point. The addition of Desmond Bane, Paolo, Franz, like you said, you talked highly of him already. Feel like, I've been talking about highly of him for the past couple years now.
I'm about to say 2-3
years.
Before he was even Paolo, man.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I think, like you said, defensive-minded team always ends up doing decent throughout the season.
Decent at least.
And when you get a player at Desmond Bane's caliber, potential all-star type player, especially in the Eastern Conference,
it's crazy.
I think it's a recipe for success for the Orlando Magic this year. I think that's something, I'm kind of skeptical about their younger guys. We haven't really seen any of them take that leap yet. And I think this is going to be the year that we see someone, Tristan Da Silva, one of those type of players.
Anthony Black.
Like one of those type of players.
We saw Suggs do it.
We saw Suggs, and Suggs is going to be back. So I think that was a huge reason why, they weren't as good as they could have been offensively.
Yeah, because
he's kind of like the facilitator, who leads the offense.
He gets everybody going.
And I think with him, Desmond Bane, Paolo, Franz, it's going to be a good team in the Eastern Conference. I think they could get, 52, 53. It's barely get it because that's such a high number. But I believe in them. I think their defense is one of the best in the league. We've seen them all year last year. The only thing with them was offense, and they ended up getting, one of the most efficient scorers that they could
in
have
the
got.
NBA for sure.
So Desmond Bane, I'm believing in you.
Yeah, putting a lot of trust.
Put
in
a lot
you,
of
man.
trust in
Faith.
you, and I'm expecting Paolo,
faith.
Franz. If they get 52 wins, like how we're projecting, they could potentially have 2 All-Stars this year.
Yeah, bro.
So I think it's gonna be a great year for
Conference
both
Finals
of
or
those
something.
players, and I think Desmond Bane is gonna be such a great addition for them. And defensively, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and Jalen Suggs coming back. Yeah,
Man.
I'm super high on the Magic. Y'all know this. We're hitting the over on that one.
100%. I like that for sure. Yeah, the Magic they're here. They're not coming. They're here. This next team, man, we're going to New York, man. It's the New York Knicks, man. At 52.5, they got to get 53 wins to go over. We've seen them perform at a really high level ever since Jalen Brunson got in the Knicks jersey. We've seen the additions of OG Anunoby, McCall Bridges. We've seen them get Cat. This number is interesting. I lean towards the under. I think the Knicks might have some trouble. I mean, I think that their roster is great. My only concern is their defense, but they have 2 wings that can obviously cover up the Brunson Cat issues. I just think that they're going to run into a little bit of trouble with their offense this year. We'll have to see what Jalen Brunson can do. We know what he did last season. We know he's an All-NBA candidate. Just if Cat doesn't give you a similar season, you are looking at regressing a little bit. And yeah, I don't know if they'll go under by that much. I think they could get 49, 50 wins. It'll be very close, but I just think they have a lot of different things to work out in the kinks. And I think New York has... the way that they play and their style of play with Tom Thibodeau was one way. We'll have to see how it is with Mike Brown. I think the schemes might be different. What they do on defense might be a little different. We'll see how much guys can play too, because I know the Knicks really didn't dive deep into their bench with Thibodeau as their coach. So we'll have to see which guys step up, Miles McBride situation, right? But I'm excited. I think New York has a lot to prove. I wouldn't be shocked if they do go over this number, but I'm leaning towards the under just based off the fact the new coach, I think they'll have to figure out some new things, what they do with Brunson and Cat. I just think OG Anunoby and McCall Bridges have, they're asked a lot, especially on the defensive end, and we'll see if that can hold up.
Yeah.
Ooh, this one's tough.
This one's tough, man.
Such a good number. It's right at the number. Yeah.
This is a good one. This is like I said, I'm just gonna go with my gut from now on. I feel like I've been a little over analytical in certain situations, but I think I'm leaning towards the over, bro.
Okay.
I feel like the Knicks are gonna have a really good year. Obviously, coaching is really my main worry at this point, just because we don't know, like you said, what Mike Brown, how their offense is going to be, how their defense is going to be, how their rotations are going to be. Man. But I think with the player that Jalen Brunson is, and yeah, Cat had an incredible year last year. I'm not saying he's going to replicate that this upcoming season, but I think it's going to be hard. But I think if he gets anywhere near it, they could potentially be, the number 1 seed in the East.
Wow.
I think that's kind of where I'm leaning. I think, Mike Brown, I think I talked about it in a previous podcast. He was the Kings coach when they had Sabonis and Fox. Different type of players, but I think one and the same with the type of what you can get out of both of them. I think Cat is going to not as good of a passer as Sabonis, better shooter, can spread the floor. I think that 2-man game between Brunson and Cat is going to be probably one of the best in the league, honestly. That's kind of what I'm projecting, and I think with that, with the OG, the McCall Bridges, they got Jordan Clarkson as well. I think, Mike Brown is rotations. We're going to see how that plays out this season. Probably going to play more of the bench, is what I'm assuming. So hopefully one of those guys can step up. And maybe Jordan Clarkson, 6th man of the year type of player.
Man,
that's kind of where, you know what I mean? That's if they get over.
He's done that. He's been in those conversations.
If they get above 52.5 wins, I think that's the type of thing that happens.
Okay.
Like you said, defensively, question mark. Brunson, Cat, not the greatest. Even Clarkson, I brought him up, but they have Josh Hart.
Yeah, they got some other guys that can cover that.
They got
up.
some dogs, but I'm leaning. I'm expecting a great season from the Knicks, bro.
Cool.
That's
you got,
what I'm leading. So
there
over for the Knicks, 52.
Going under, man. Just under.
Bit?
Yeah, I think 51, 52 is like a perfect number. This
you.
number is another no bet for me.
Got you.
Very. It's right in the wheelhouse.
No bet too for me.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, it's right in the wheelhouse, brother. This next squad though, man, had a ton of regular season success last season, winning over 60 games. We know this team it was supposed to be finals bound, just couldn't get it done in the playoffs. It's none other than the Cleveland Cavaliers, man, sitting at 55.5 for their over-under. Got to do 56 to get the over. Oh, man. I'm going... my gut tells me over. Mm-hmm. I just don't know how they're going to repeat what they did last season.
Yeah.
I'm going to lean towards the over, though.
Okay.
I think Evan Mobley is here. We saw his ascension last year into even against your squad, right?
Yeah, 100%.
A game-winning bucket, but I think the leap for him is really going to be made from the 3-point line. I think if Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell are still healthy, they're going to have a great year. They lost Ty Jerome. They've added Lonzo Ball. They still have their main pieces really that they had from last year, and I just think Cleveland is such a well-oiled regular season machine at this point. Like they just know that their guys are ready to play. They know their schedule very well. I think Kenny Atkinson's done a really good job figuring out the schemes and putting guys in positions to be successful. And I wouldn't be shocked to see another great season from the Cavs, man. 56, 57 wins, even though it's very, very high. I'm going out on a limb. Most likely they'll probably finish first in the East. I just don't think they'll make a big noise in the playoffs, and that's kind of what we talked about when we did our Eastern Conference. I think we had them first or second as well. They're not a playoff team, and that's what matters in the NBA. But I will say, we're talking about regular season here. Their roster's full. I mean, they pay a pretty penny for it. We went through it on the offseason files. Yeah, I'm leaning towards the over. I think if they can't get over, it's an issue. Yeah, it's a problem because they're spending a lot of money.
Yeah. Man.
56, 57 wins, baby.
Bro. It's a lot of wins. I mean, obviously they won 60 games last year. Like I said, I'm just going to go with my gut. I'm kind of leading towards the under, bro.
Yeah.
I don't know. I that's just such a high mark. I think, if they do, if they get the over, I'm not saying I would be surprised, but I think just with, I don't know, the Eastern Conference is weak. They are probably one of the best teams in the East.
Top three
for sure, without a doubt. But I'm leaning towards the under, man. I just think that win total is a little too high for me.
You think it'll be Knicks, Magic, Cavs? Top three.
I think it's going to be Knicks, Cavs, Magic. That's kind of where I'm leaning.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, under.
I can see that. I think Cavs would be number one seed again.
They're a great regular season team. We saw it last year. Can they replicate that though? That's kind of my question. I think Evan Mobley.
The Thunder can.
I think the Thunder can. I don't know what their win total is, but I'd probably hit the over. I don't know what that is, but I think with the
6, I think.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we win 60. Not gonna lie, but that's just me talking. Sorry.
We'll get into that.
We'll get into that next episode. But going with my gut instinct, leaning towards the under. I have no real questions. I just don't know if they can win that many games.
Again. Yeah.
I think that, 55,
it's tough.
54, like that's an incredible
They had no injuries.
Injuries. Towards the end of the year.
Yeah,
of course, that's when they started to get some.
Of course, right?
But, that has always been, kind of one of my questions for them. They've had seasons like last year. And then the year before that, they were kind of injured.
Yeah.
And the year before that, they were healthy. And it's kind of been
back and forth.
We haven't seen them consistently be healthy. Not saying that they can't do that, but I'm not gonna lie. I think just the type of season they had, incredible. Made it to number one seed in the Eastern Conference. I just don't know if they could replicate that again.
I agree.
Not saying that it won't happen. But just
it's
kind of
so difficult.
Yeah, it's so difficult, especially in.
And they're not like the Thunder dynasty,
right.
Yeah.
So I'm leaning towards the under. Don't really have a specific reason. I just don't. I think that
feeling.
The line is so high for them. It's going to be hard.
It's a good reason. The line is too high.
It's too high. Not saying they're going to be a bad team.
It was at like 53.5.
Right.
54.
I would probably lean more towards the over. But since it's so high,
closer to 60.
It's closer to 60. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very difficult. They would have to have another historic season. I think they are in the running for that, though.
Definitely.
Watch out for the Cavs.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think they're going to be a great team. They're still going to be top 3 for sure. I think it's solidified. I just don't know if they're going to get 56 wins.
Near 60 wins.
Yeah, 60 wins.
100%, man. Well, that's going to do it for us. CJ and I just went through the Eastern Conference win totals, man, and we're about to dive into our offseason files. And For people who don't know, man, the way that this works on this show is we kind of break it down. We go into the players. We do 3 players that they're building around. So each franchise is building around, and then we get into their cap situation, and we talk about some of the strategic improvements that they can make on the court and off the court. So it's pretty fun, man, if, we go through all 30 teams. So hopefully we highlight your team well. You feel like we did a good job going through the contract situations and everything like that. But we'll get right into it, man. I think the Pelicans are one of the most interesting teams in the Western Conference this year, just based off of the question marks surrounding the injuries, the types of players that they have on their roster, the addition of Jordan Poole. So, CJ, I'm excited to get into it, man. I'm about to kick it off, so let's get right into it. So the players that they're building around, I think you guys know who the number one player is, man. I don't got to talk about this guy too much, man, but it's none other than Zion Williamson, man. Super tantalizing force in the NBA. We've seen this guy, when healthy, be, I would say, a top 15 player in the NBA. 24 and double digits rebounds, and just his athleticism kind of makes him a freak of nature. The unfortunate part is he has been injured. And when we say he's been injured, some guys that have came in the league 3-4 years after him have played more games than he has total. So that kind of speaks to his injury concerns for sure. He's in the middle of a 5-year, $197 million supermax. I think he's in the 3rd or 4th year, so he's owed $40 million this season. I think the Pelicans, honestly, if they get a healthy season out of Zion Williamson, this is a steal of a contract. Anything under $200 million for an All-NBA type of player, I think, is a steal. It's just a question if he can be healthy or not for you. I think me and CJ both know that the caliber of player that Zion Williamson is. He needs to be out on the floor, obviously, to make that impact. With the type of player that he's really turned into, he still hasn't added a 3-point jump shot. He still, dominates in the interior. And I think that does lead to more injuries. He uses his bounce, he uses his athleticism to get to the bucket. The other thing that I had in my notes that I was writing down before this, I just would love to see Zion develop his game a little bit more. I think he's missing some of the mid-range and the 3-point, and that would kind of take some pressure off of his joints because he's trying to dunk on everybody all the time, man. Yeah, bro. Yeah. And so that was my my one little tidbit for that. But he's been great for the Pelicans franchise, man, and he's definitely saved them from a dark place. When they switched to being the New Orleans Pelicans, I know a lot of fans in Charlotte were very frustrated. Being the kind of the new team, a weird new team, and they haven't had a ton of playoff success, but I know they're hoping that Zion can be their future star. So he's the number one person that they're currently building around right now, hands down, no question. His next guy, man, he was acquired from the Hawks. It's none other than DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray's also been hurt as well, unfortunately, but we've seen when he's healthy, to his two-way capability, the type of player that he is on the offensive and defensive side. And to me, what sticks out most is his defensive ability, right? We've seen him be on all I think he's made an all-defensive team, if I'm not mistaken, which is really crazy, especially for a guard. But yeah, he's very skilled. He has a couple flaws in his game. Again, he can't shoot the 3 very well, but he does do damage in the mid-range. He's currently on, I think, what is it, let's see if I get this number right. Yeah, 4-year, $115 million deal. He's only owed $30 million this upcoming season, but unfortunately, they're not going to have his services until deeper into the season because I think he's currently on an Achilles tear injury. So he's going to have to figure that out. But he's been a very serviceable player. He's been one of the better guards in the NBA when healthy. I think for me, and really the question that the Pelicans have is this a player we can build around? Yeah. I think when he's on the court, it is similar to Zion. But looking at these two guys, if you had to, again, I think Zion deserves a little bit more leeway. He's definitely more of a franchise-altering player. However, DeJounte Murray gives them a ton of options at the point guard position, especially with his length and his height and what he's able to do on both sides of the ball. So he's their second player that they're building around firmly. I think, those two guys are the main core. Is going to take up the majority of their cap space if they choose to move forward in the future. But this third guy and final guy, this one's up for debate. You could put Jordan Poole here if you want. There's nobody else that you could really put here. But it's none other than Trey Murphy, man. And, Trey Murphy is one of the most promising two-way wings we have in the NBA. We saw him really have a breakout season last year. I think he was averaging 22 points a game, 5 boards, 4 assists, incredible. Very, very high efficient scoring, shooting 40% from deep. To me, Trey Murphy's the most interesting piece out of these three guys because we know what Zion and DeJounte Murray can do. I think Trey Murphy's the ultimate wild card here. Yeah. Could potentially be an all-star, could potentially just be a role player. Yeah. But man, you know, his contract situation is on the cheaper side. I think he's I think he's at like 16. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But I know Jordan Poole is getting 31 right now. Or 25. Yeah, that's his number. So he's getting paid $25 million this year. Which again is a steal for the two-way ability that he has. Like I said, he had a breakout season last year, and he's not even the third most expensive player on your roster. So you can kind of see where the Pelicans are trending. They're definitely gearing up for the future. He's also a younger guy too. I think if we see Trey Murphy get a fully healthy season, he could definitely win some accolades. And so looking at these three guys, I think it's a really interesting core for the Pelicans to start building around. And we've seen them grow into the types of players that they've become. You know, all three of these guys have come into the NBA with different skill sets and kind of worked on their game and improved on their game. And every time they touch the court, they're definitely dangerous. So I feel like Trey Murphy, DeJounte Murray, Zion Williamson, like those three players, they're definitely firmly building around, trying to get a franchise to really be interested in and build a team around. You know, I think the Pelicans have been searching for players like this for a long time, and they finally have them.
Yeah, I agree. I think Trey Murphy is, like you said, the wild card in that situation.
Yeah, bro.
He has the potential to be an all-star, or he has the potential to be a role player. But regardless, I think just what he was able to do this past season kind of showed me what he has the capability of doing. And if Zion and DeJounte are healthy, I don't see why he can't. Maybe he's not averaging as much points, but I think the efficiency is going to be there, and you're going to get the defensive mentality from him as well. Yeah, dude. So I agree. I like those players.
Cool.
Yes, sir. So going into the next segment of the offseason files, we dive deep into their cap and roster situation. So going right into it, man. Total active payroll for the New Orleans Pelicans is $183 million. They're just $6.7 million under the first apron. Top heavy core, like ZD just mentioned, Zion, DeJounte Murray and Trey Murphy and Jordan Poole as well. You know, we didn't bring him up. They account for a majority of their cap space. Those four players are owed $126 million this upcoming season. Draft capital, limited first round flexibility in 2026-2027 due to the Derek Queen trade. The Pelicans are forced to try to make the playoffs this year due to their first round pick going to the Hawks.
Yeah, that's tough.
The good news is the Pelicans own their own first picks from 2028 to 2031. Sorry.
Yeah. 3 years in a row.
3 years in a row. I think, you know,
it's going to be good.
It's going to be, you know, interesting. You know, I think, you know, I think Derek Queen is a great player. He also got injured. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
But
how do you feel about that, man? That first round pick going to Atlanta, who doesn't need it?
Man,
because they're good.
The rich get richer, bro.
Yeah,
I think that was a perfect trade for them. You know, I think Pelicans saw the type of player Derek Queen is, what he can provide. I understood the situation, why they wanted to make that trade. But I think it was this could potentially be one of those trades where they look back at like, why did we do that? Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. You know, I think the Pelicans, you know, we haven't gotten to their wins over and under yet. We'll talk about that next episode.
Next time, yeah.
I think, it's going to be interesting to see, because if Derek Queen doesn't amount to anything, or not saying that was crazy. If he doesn't have the type of season that they
impact, right.
It's going to be hard for them to really justify making that trade, because if they're not good this upcoming season,
especially approaching the apron,
then they're going to, you know, they just gave away their first round pick. So
right.
It's interesting. I don't know. Hopefully he has a great season. That's all
of course.
I'm
Whenever he comes back.
Whenever he gets healthy, I think he's a great player. But you're putting a lot of trust into a rookie when you don't know exactly what he's going to
turn into.
So, and the fact that you gave away that
he's not like
capital,
a Zion Williamson,
right?
Where like you would trade a first round
exactly.
pick, right?
It's not like he's a franchise altering type of player. He's a great player. Obviously, he's in the league.
Good answer.
I think that's kind of why I'm leading. It's going to be interesting to see, because, you know, I like that when it happened. Didn't really think about the circumstances of that, you know, because I was like, oh, Derek Queen, he's cold. We seen him. We see him play at Montvert. We saw him play at Maryland.
Like, he's going to be great.
He's going to be good. But was he good enough for your first round pick the following season? Because more than likely, y'all aren't going to be the greatest.
Yeah,
and that
like
pick is
the
gonna
finals.
A high value pick.
Yeah, high value.
And the
with a
Hawks
good draft,
it,
and the Hawks have it.
So then they're already building something in Atlanta.
Yeah,
so
and you guys owe more money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's interesting. Like I said, in the moment, thought it was a great thing. Now I'm thinking about it. We've had some time to sit on.
Walking back.
I don't think it was great, bro.
Yeah, bro.
That might be one of those, like I said, like, man, why did they do that?
Yeah, and the Pelicans have we'll talk about it in the off the court improvements they can make, but they have some interesting decisions to make because some guys are going to be owed 40 some odd dollars and 40 some $1 million, and that's going to be difficult as they approach that first apron, like you were alluding to earlier. And,
right.
Yeah, their current roster, I would say, is fairly healthy. Their balance sheet,
solid.
It's solid. Like that, a lot of their younger guys actually, Hunter Dickinson, Springer, right? Like even Micah Peavy, like they're all getting paid sub $2 million. Yves Missi is on a $4 million deal. Like they have some value on that roster.
Yeah,
but like CJ's alluding to, was it worth trading for Derek Queen, giving up your first round pick the following year?
Yeah,
especially with the
roster that you have,
especially with this upcoming season. The East is going to be weak too. Like the Hawks are probably going to be good.
Yeah. So it's very questionable. Like I said, like I didn't think about it in that moment because I was just like, Derek Queen is such a good player. But I just think I don't think
those first round picks are 5-star value. Bro.
100%.
Before you draft somebody, obviously.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but like Z said, nothing too crazy on their balance sheet. Looks pretty healthy. Yeah. Obviously, like we said, Poole,
they got
Zion,
Looney too.
Looney, I forgot about that too. Murray. And then Murphy, those are the ones that are taking a majority of the cap space. But
like you said, $126 million throughout those four, man.
It's a lot of money.
It's got to be worth it.
Yeah, so we'll see. It doesn't nothing too crazy. A lot of cap holds, but I think that's just kind of
how it is.
How it is.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't look at that earlier. When we were
it's for a while too.
Yeah, Jeremiah Robinson Earl. They got Alfred Payton. Kind of weird. They got Tony Snell still on the books.
Wow.
Gary Clark still on the books. Not the best, but understandable. I know teams have to stretch out contracts, but yeah, CJ, I think it's a good cap explanation. I feel like their balance sheet is fairly healthy. Yeah. They made a mistake, in our opinion, trading away that first round pick, but we understand the desperation trying to get a center to put around Zion. And unfortunately, both of those guys seem to be injury prone. Derek Queen got hurt before he even touched the court. But now we're moving into the next section, man. This is the section where we get into the strategic improvements that the Pelicans can make on the court and off the court. And I think, this is the number one thing they need to do on the court, man. It's pretty simple. They got to roll into their trio whenever they're healthy. I mean, DeJounte Murray, Trey Murphy, and also Zion Williamson, who is obviously very dangerous. Those three guys being the core of your team is very, very prosperous, very interesting, very intriguing. When all three of those guys are healthy, man, you need to do everything in your power to win as many games as possible. I think, Trey's spacing, DeJounte Murray's two-way ability, you got Zion's explosiveness, like, all of those three guys, man, you'll be able to create a harmonious effect around them. And I think adding Jeremiah Fears, having younger guys like Yves Missi be able to come off the bench is just going to add so much value to your team. And so for me, like the number one thing they got to get down is just making sure that those three guys can be on the court. I think if those three dudes are on the court, the Pelicans are an extremely dangerous team. I mean, the Western Conference is deep. I think the Pelicans are prepared, though, with their top-heavy roster to be able to get 40-something wins, Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if they make the playoffs this year if guys are healthy, and I think, their main core is really going to be the reason why they do so. So I think they really have to lean into that, especially when those guys are healthy. It takes me into my next point. It's just the bench stability. The question marks surrounding the bench for the Pelicans, Derek Queen's injury doesn't help that. But I will say they do have a lot of people on their bench that they could put in the game. We spoke about Hunter Dickinson, who's a two-way player, but if you need to call him up on the roster to be available, do so. But I think it starts with Jeremiah Fears. You think Poole will be in the starting lineup, correct?
Yeah.
So
sure.
You're looking at Yves Missi, you're looking at Hawkins as well. Yeah. I think Alvarado. Their stability on their bench is one of their main advantages. I think they need to lean into that going forward, especially in a deep Western Conference. We know the Pelicans are dangerous when they're healthy. We've seen what they can do in the play-in and in playoff situations with Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum. And so I think a lot of younger guys are going to get opportunities here to really blossom and grow. I feel like for me, I am personally most interested in what Jeremiah Fears can do 100%. At his size. And if he can be a 12, 14 points per game scorer, having that off the bench around Jordan Hawkins and Yves Mussi and other guys to really step in. You know, like you said, Alvarado's hiding in the corner, getting steals. Anything can happen. I think their bench stability is something they should really, really lean into, bro, and continue to build on. And whenever guys do go down, because most likely that will happen. This is an NBA season. It's grueling, it's long, and injuries happen. When that happens, you need to have guys prepared who are on the bench who can step up and play a starter role. And so I'm interested to see if the Pelicans can really lean into that. This third point, the last point that they can really, work on to improve their roster on the court is just really figure out their defensive continuity. For me, if the Pelicans can be an offensive team, but really be a defensive-minded team first. I think they have interchangeable wings. Everybody's switchable. I know all of their bigs are fairly athletic, besides Kevon Looney. But all of those guys can switch with anybody. I think if they can have defensive continuity, it's pretty much everything with this team. If they can hover around top 10 in defense, top 10 in offense, I think the Pelicans are going to be a playoff team in the Western Conference. They should be able to run a switch-heavy scheme, which will allow guys to be able to switch around, get on other guys, and they'll really be able to figure out their defensive chain of command, really. Who's going to be the leader? Who's guarding the best player on the floor? Most likely that's going to be Herb Jones.
We haven't even brought him up at all.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Sure. Yeah, no, for sure. But they still got Herbie. They got a great roster. Man.
Yeah, they do.
And it's fairly healthy. We looked at their balance sheet. It's not too bad, and they're not overpaying for anybody. I just think leaning into that defensive identity, like you said, Herb Jones, one of the better defenders in the league. We've spoken about Trey Murphy a lot, DeJounte Murray. But that's really useful in today's NBA. You think offense is useful. Nah, man, it's defense and having guys who can switch, having a team that can really play up against any offense on any given night in the NBA. And I think the Pelicans are going to have the ability to do that. I think if they combine their defensive identity with their bench stability, and they lean into those three core players that they got that are really, really good. I mean, they're looking at a on-the-court masterpiece, it seems like, bro. That team would be a top 5 team in the Western Conference, no doubt, if guys can stay healthy.
Yeah,
so
100%. What do you think their what's their ceiling, or what's a successful season for the Pelicans?
Definitely making it past the first round of the playoffs.
Okay.
For me, that would also solidify that pick to be in that 20 range, right? So you would know that the Hawks wouldn't get that great of a pick. Yeah. So it'd make it better for sure. They need to make the playoffs to be successful. I think trading that first round pick even makes it more so.
Yeah, I agree.
Than it originally was. But to answer your question, I think getting past the first round, perfect. I think that would be successful. And we'll get into this in a second, but if guys can just stay freaking healthy, that would be successful too.
Yeah, I agree.
But kind of that takes me to my next point with the off the court strategic improvements that they can make. Literally, the next question, I have it on the outline. It's just who can be healthy.
Yeah.
If guys cannot stay on the court, then you have to go in a different direction, because your best ability is your availability. I think the Pelicans specifically has been a team that has been hurt by people being unavailable, and that's not something that they can continue to go down. I'm not a Pelicans fan, but there are Pelicans fans out there who have waited a long time for them to be in this spot. They've seen them go out in the play-in situation, or not the play-in situation, the what is it called? The cup. NBA Cup situation, just having a dud against my team, the Lakers. Yeah. We've seen them kind of struggle in the playoffs as well. And I think they're starting to get frustrated, man. They really are asking some questions of their team and their GM and trying to figure out what they can really do. And because of these injuries, they've been decimated by them. They haven't been able to see their roster at full strength. And unfortunately, that means you can't make a good assessment of where your team really stands in the Western Conference. It's very difficult to make decisions based off of partial information, right? Like if you don't have everybody out there on the court, how can you really know if your team's good? Right. So I think for me, that's the number one question mark in the off the court is just durability concerns. Are guys getting hurt in practice? Like what they're doing to recover, and just all the things that we're not seeing. If the players and the coaching staff can be on the same page when it comes to recovery, and just can they really work to mitigate that injury risk? I think who can be healthy is really an important question to answer this offseason in particular. And this kind of leads me into my next point, but your two core guys seem to be the most injury-prone players on the roster. And that's DeJounte Murray and Zion Williamson. And so I wanted to ask a question to you, CJ. Like, you feel like if this season doesn't go well, they should look to move off of Zion or DeJounte Murray?
I feel like that's been a question that
For a while,
NBA fans and specifically Pelican fans have probably been thinking for a while, because, like you said, I feel like, we've talked about Zion a lot on this podcast
100%.
Years ago, you know what I mean? Like when we first started, and I feel like the main thing with him was the health, and the fact that that's still a question to this day.
It's crazy.
Because we know what he can be, what he can produce on the court, but it's just if you could stay healthy, bro. So I'm going to be honest, I'm kind of leaning towards like if this season is just a repeat of the last couple seasons,
like a replica.
You're gonna have to think about it. You're probably going to have to. I think if I was in the Pelicans front office, I definitely would.
Yeah, bro.
And realistically, all right, let me flip this question on you real quick. If he has the same type of year he had last year, injuries, not playing as much games, but you see what he can produce on the court. What is his value? You know what I mean? Like what?
Yeah,
if you were to trade him,
dude, I was just about to get into that. I think right now Zion's worth a first round pick and a good player. It just depends on the team. I think the team determines the value, and if there's a couple smart teams out there that do research, obviously into the medical history, they care about that more than probably the player. But there's some teams who are willing to bite on a Zion Williamson and DeJounte Murray. So I think he's still a 4 or 5 star asset, no doubt, because when healthy, he's one of the best players in the NBA. It's just like, is he going to be healthy?
Yeah.
Who's
going to bite too?
Who's going to bite? It's going to be a team that needs Zion to go to the championship, if that makes sense. So it's going to be a good team.
Yeah.
I think that would bite.
Yeah.
And it would kind of be an all-in move. But yeah, I mean, for the Pelicans, and this is from the Pelicans' perspective, I think hitting the reset button would be amazing. If you have the opportunity to get away from injury-prone players, to get assets back, to get future players back, that's going to be really useful. I think Zion Williamson, DeJounte Murray at the point of their career where it's twilight zone. It's, are you going to be a playoff guy? Are you going to win the finals? Are you going to be winning? Or are you just in the NBA? And that's kind of my question really is just figuring out, okay, are Zion and DeJounte Murray a good fit together, and are they a good fit here? I think Trey Murphy is more untouchable than those two guys.
I agree.
And so, like, even though he had that injury last year, I would argue that if we were having these major conversations with the Pelicans GM, whatever, I would push for Trey Murphy being untouchable more than Zion, because we've just seen that track record. Like CJ just said, it keeps happening. It's repeatable, and it's a replica of itself. And so at some point we have to start asking different questions. And I think with DeJounte Murray, he's just at a tough point in his career. It's kind of at a crossroads. He hasn't added that 3-point shot that would make him deadly. And I just think these two guys, man, it's coming to that point where they got to start asking these questions. I don't know if it'll happen this offseason. Probably not. But next year, I wouldn't be shocked to see some moves being made.
Right. What do you think about Zion on the Heat? Because I think that was one of the things that we talked about when we did Miami's offseason files. They haven't made a big splash. What if that's the big splash?
That could be cold, bro. Now that you bring that, yeah, bro. I mean,
let's think about it, right? They would probably have to trade one of their guys, no? Hero, Bam.
I think they would have to trade like
Wiggins.
They'd have to trade like somebody like that with a big contract, or like, because we haven't talked about him, but Norman Powell with another big contract.
Yep.
And then like a first round pick.
Yeah.
They got to.
If he was on that team, do you think they could make it far into
I think they
playoffs?
would be immediately a top 6 seed, top 4, like within top 4 to 6,
like in that range.
And I think that gives you a chance to compete, which is all you can ask for in the NBA. I mean, my goodness, we've seen what they did with Jimmy Butler and company, and so I think, adding Zion to that would be dangerous, man. And Bam and Hero can kind of offset that just because they do shoot threes. I know Bam is starting to attempt more. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I just thought about it because I remember I was like, what team did we say that they have never really made a splash?
Yeah, that's the Heat.
Yeah.
I hope the Heat do that, man. Like, we talked about, it was the Grizzlies.
That's who it was. Yeah.
Yeah, the Grizz, but the Heat as well. They haven't done that since LeBron.
Exactly.
But yeah, the Grizzlies for sure.
What about the Grizzlies then? Let's do this exercise with that.
That would be probably even better, just because the Grizzlies are a bit younger. I just think like the athleticism.
Yeah.
Like when you add Ja, you have Zion, you got Jaren
Triple
Jackson.
J.
Yeah, like that's an athletic little core right there.
They'd have to trade.
They'd have to give up Wells or GG Jackson plus the first, which is a lot. That's a hefty price to pay for aging Zion Williamson, who's hurt all the time,
healthy,
right? And he can't shoot threes. But maybe, like you're saying, and like the Grizzlies is another team. Like we spoke about it at length during their offseason file. But yeah, they got to do something. Like I think some of their fans are definitely pissed, similar to how the Pelicans are. Like no star, no. What are we really doing? They're not on the court. Like yeah, it's that would be even better.
Yeah, that's who it was. Because I remember we talked about it recently.
Yeah,
I know we just talked about them like fairly.
We're going through all 30, so we have a lot to do, man. Yeah, 100%.
You know, that was like the first thing that came to mind because, I think like, you brought it up, you asked that question, are they long-term fits or would you, potentially think about trading either one of them? And I think that's if it doesn't go as well as we think it is and kind of injury riddled season again, I think that's kind of where it's going to be leaning towards.
It's going to end up there.
It sucks to say it, but when he's on the court, great. But that's the thing. How many games can he play in a season?
How many can their core play? The number one thing they could do on the court is roll their trio out there when they're healthy. Like their core is everything. I think the Pelicans are such a top heavy team. I think Jordan Poole is going to be awesome this year. By the way,
I was gonna say, what type of year do you think he's going to have?
Yeah, we talked about the Warriors too, man. I think they took a massive loss with that, and that was 100%. Years ago, but. Him going to the Wizards, now playing for the Pelicans. I think the Pelicans give him a better... I just want to see him play winning basketball. I think the Pelicans have a chance to play winning basketball. So to answer your question, I think I'm looking at 16, 17 points on pretty good efficiency, 90% from the free throw line, 38% from deep, 4 assists a game. That's all I ask from Jordan Poole. And
starting guard?
Yeah, he's going to start.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, he's going to start. Unfortunately, Hawkins won't, who, again, if Poole wasn't here... That's a guy who they're looking to start in the future, but now, unfortunately, since Poole is here, around a similar age,
they're going to start him.
Yeah, they got to give it to NBA champion.
Yeah, I was about to say that champion. We've seen what he can.
We see what he can do for sure. You have anything else to add to the Pelicans offseason file? Or you want to close this file up?
Nah, man. I think like ZD said, if they can do those on court improvements, they can have an incredible season. But that's if they can stay healthy. I feel like that's what we keep bringing up.
The biggest question mark,
yeah. And I feel like that's been their thing since they drafted Zion. So, praying for a healthy season from Zion, that'd be incredible to see. I feel like have we ever seen that?
We have not seen a full season from Zion Williamson since he's been in the NBA.
Right. So,
because you would know.
Yeah, I was about to say he's been an all-star though, right?
Yeah, he's been an all-star.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. He just hasn't.
Yeah, it's like similar. Like you can miss the game, like you can still make the all-star team. He can still make the all-star team this year and not hit the game requirements.
Yeah, sure. But I don't know, man. I just kind of want to end it off on that. I think if they can,
that's dope.
If they can have,
let's do that.
The health and do the things that ZD was saying. If anybody from the Pelicans organization ever watches this.
100%.
I think y'all will have a great season, but that's the huge if, and I feel like that's been the thing with the Pelicans since they've really gotten Zion.
Yeah,
so.
And you guys are close.
You're right. And that's the thing, bro. Like when
you guys are close,
when they're not even fully healthy, they've always kind of been a play
in the mix.
Team.
Yeah,
I think we went against them.
They're a tough team to play against
in the play-in. We ended up beating them, and then I think we lost to the Timberwolves.
Yeah.
And then I want to say we went against them. Did we go against them last year? Last year in the playoffs, first round. So yeah, they're always in the mix. I think it's just Zion being healthy, developing their young guys, and kind of like you said, just really having like a good defensive continuity. I feel like that's their main thing, and if they could do that, they will be really good. But that's the question. That is the question that everybody wants to have it answered eventually. But man.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you for pulling up on me.
It's
always good to do these in person.
This is a given,
pods, bro. Hopefully.
Oh yeah,
whenever this season starts, we're definitely going to do these more often. It's just the off season, so Discord's a little easier.
Trying to be consistent.
Yeah, but
we stay consistent. Y'all have been watching, man. We appreciate it.
We appreciate y'all, man. But was there anything else you want to let the people know before we head out, bro?
The season is around the corner, though. I know CJ said it's not close. It is close.
It is close, yeah.
But I'm excited, and we always say that, man. Watch more hoops. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Y'all already know the drill.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah. That's your boys from 3-Man Weave.
3-Man, yeah.
We'll see you next time, man. Peace.
Peace, man.
3-Man,
Come
3-Man,
on.
3-Man.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yes, sir.